Here's the thing. Birds are real, and it's mean to say that they're not. We're here with episode 10.
10.
Hit the double digits.
Did anyone think we'd get this far?
We proved them all wrong.
I know. All of our doubters, all of our haters.
Yeah. It's a good motivation to pretend we have haters. We have no haters, probably.
No. We're too small to have haters, which is perfect. It's a great place to be,
Exactly.
I think.
Yeah, I don't think we should grow anymore. I think we're right where we should be.
Yeah. No, if you have like friends or family who are potential haters, don't tell them about this podcast.
Exactly.
But if you have like really chill friends or family, tell them about it.
We only want good listeners, none of the bad.
Only good, yeah.
None of the bad listeners. Just kidding. Okay.
By the way, in case you didn't know, somehow, I'm Sam.
And I'm Quiche.
We're going to start out with our field notes. And hey, we kind of got a doozy of a field notes to go over this time.
Yeah, we had a pretty packed weekend, I would say. So this past weekend, well, let's start with maybe the not so glamorous event. We went to John Hines on Saturday, like we typically do.
We did.
And it's just not a super eventful day. Nothing was really out. Saw a couple of cool things. Tufted titmouse, which I didn't recognize the call last episode, which is sad. Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like we just didn't see much.
Yeah, Northern Harrier. Couldn't get that one in focus in my camera.
Yeah, the Northern Harriers are kind of a staple at this point there, which was cool. But yeah, photos-wise, maybe not the best day.
Yeah, lots of ducks though. A lifer duck. What was that duck? Do you remember?
Ringneck duck.
The ring-necked duck.
Yeah, shout out to that lady for pointing it out. We thought, from afar, I was just like, oh, that's like a shoveler or something that we've like typically seen, but no, it was a ring-necked duck.
Yeah, which is a new one. But then the highlight of the weekend, the real thing that I remember, I kind of forgot we went to Hines, honestly.
Yeah.
We went to Bombay Hook National Wildlife Refuge down in Delaware.
Yeah, Smyrna, Delaware.
Smyrna, Delaware. Shout out Smyrna.
We mentioned it last episode. We were hopeful to see a few species, the American avocet, some sandhill cranes, and mission accomplished. We definitely saw them.
We did.
Some closer than others.
Yeah.
I think I counted a total of 6 lifers for me from Bombay Hook alone, so that was great.
There are so many, yeah. Sandhill cranes we got real close to, or they got close to us, I should say. We were just kind of standing there. They kind of popped out from the brush. The avocets were a little further away. We almost drove right by them, or to be more clear, I almost drove right by them, and Keisha was like, no, stop. I think these are avocets. And I was like, nah, man, they're not avocets.
So it's kind of a loop in Bombay Hook where you drive your car like really slowly. It's like, I don't know, what's the speed limit, like 20 or something?
Yeah.
And a lot of the birds are just like, if you see a bird on the side of the road, you would stop. There's a bunch of habitat for the birds to be. So you're allowed to like pull over to the side, go out and check out these birds. So we were doing our second loop. We were on our way back. Mm-hmm. We were really excited that we saw some sandhill cranes, but we didn't see any American avocets, and that's kind of what I really wanted to see.
Yeah.
So we were on our way back. It's been a long day. I thought, they were super far away, but I was like, okay, there's a chance. I feel like the body shape is there. I was like, yo, Sam, I think these are American avocets. He was like, nah, they're probably gulls.
No, not gulls. I thought they were dunlins.
Dunlins, yeah, because we did see a lot of dunlins.
A lot of dunlins.
But we really had to get our cameras out and like get some really blurry shots, but they were for sure American avocets, which was awesome to see.
The American black duck was a new one. Mm-hmm. Quiche thought they were mallards. That just got kind of muddy.
No, that was a really funny moment. Sam was like, hey, I think these are different species. I was like, nah, dude, those are just some mallards that have been rolling in the dirt. So, yeah, good on him to actually check them out. Yeah, they were American black ducks, which were new for me.
Yeah, new for me too. Yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Yellow-bellied sapsucker was really cool.
That's a type of woodpecker, if you didn't know. I kind of forgot about sapsuckers.
I think they're the only sapsucker on the east coast of the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool to see that.
Didn't recognize it in the moment. Like I said, there was a sea of dunlins, which are like this little peep-looking kind of bird. Mm. And I saw something that looked slightly different. I took a photo of it. Didn't really know in the moment what it was, but it turned out to be a black-bellied plover.
Yeah.
Which was also new for me.
New for me also.
I saw a bufflehead, which was really cool.
Yeah, I love buffleheads.
And I think that was it for lifers for me. So very eventful day.
Great day. Really glad we went.
Yeah. We're definitely going to have to go back at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
When it's warmer out, which is going to be a while from now. But I would love to see a black-necked stilt, which you have seen at Forsyth.
I did at Forsyth, yep.
But that's a really pretty bird as well.
Yeah, very pretty. Very cool. If we have to go back next summer, I think.
One thing that I was thinking about when we were when I was looking back at our Bombay Hook trip was the sandhill cranes, and they were some of the local people that were out there. They were telling us that it's this same mated pair of sandhill cranes that is there at Bombay Hook. They're typically found more southern, right?
Yeah.
But this pair decided to make Bombay Hook their home, which is great. But I was thinking from last episode, would you consider that a local celebrity?
Ooh, I mean, we did have like local people come up to us and tell us about those specific cranes.
Yeah.
I think I would.
Yeah, it counts.
Hey, that does count. Nice, good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like well known, and they had like three little baby. They weren't really babies at this point.
They were big, yeah.
Juveniles, I guess, but they're pretty big. But like three kids were.
Yeah, it was
very
very
too.
wholesome, very cool.
Yeah. Now on that note, that brings us into our first hoot topic of the day, asked by Scott. Thank you very much, Scott, for your question and all your support. You've been sending us a lot of support, and we really appreciate it.
Yeah, Scott's a listener from the UK, so we're officially out of this continent.
I know.
Yeah. Yeah, Scott's hoot topic is, what is your best random bird fact?
Yeah. So lots of random bird facts to choose from, lots of birds to choose from.
I feel like since we went to Bombay Hook this past weekend, sandhill cranes are fresh in our mind, so we're going to drop some sandhill crane facts for you guys.
Yeah. This first one I got from a book called Bird Facts, I believe. And I'm not entirely sure that this book is true. I think it lies sometimes, but this sounds reasonable enough. The sandhill crane makes a very loud call. Some call it trumpeting, and it can be heard like 2 miles away. So that's pretty far.
Yeah, that's wild. Should we play it?
I think we should play it, but just make sure you're 2 miles away from your phone. Yeah. Now just imagine that, but you're outside and it's really loud. And they can make this sound because they have like an extra long trachea. That's the windpipe for those who don't know what a trachea is. And it also, with their call, they can make harmonics, which is like if you sing a note, there are actually lots of notes stacked on top of each other. You get this with a violin, with a piano, maybe with all instruments. Maybe I have a bad understanding of what harmonics are, and I apologize to my family who are consist of some music theorists. But yeah, the sandhill crane can produce harmonics.
Nice, cool. Yeah, that call just reminded me, kind of ties into my fun fact. It's been a minute since I've seen any Jurassic Park movie, but it sounded kind of dinosaur-y.
It did.
To my knowledge, the sandhill crane is the oldest living known bird species. Not in terms of like lifespan, but in terms of like they found a fossil of a sandhill crane that was dated 2.5 million years. And I don't think they've found another species of bird that their fossil has been dated so late. So, seems like they're, the closest. I think they're not like super close. I'm sure there's been like millions and millions of years between the dinosaurs and sandhill cranes, but they're the closest thing we know.
Yeah, I believe that. Like, take a look at that thing.
Yeah.
That looks like a dinosaur to me.
Definitely. And even the way they walk, it was like they're kind of like walking like they're stalking something.
It's interesting because like in body shape alone, they look a lot like a great blue heron. But like behavior-wise, totally different. So it was kind of fun to see that. Well, thank you, Scott, for your question. Kind of got us off on a good note, I think, to this hoot topic section. This next hoot topic comes to us from Jacob. Thank you, Jacob, for your question. And here's that question. Do you have any favorite human songs that are about birds or make specific mention of birds in the lyrics? I do, actually. This is one that I think I actually listened to when I was like 10 years old, but then kind of forgot about it. But shout out to my dad. He texted me this past week and reminded me that there's actually a song about Pale Male, the famous red-tailed hawk of New York City. If you didn't listen to last episode, I mentioned Pale Male very briefly, but the song is called Down Here Below by Steve Earle, and it's awesome. It's so good. I've listened to it like legitimately like 20 times since he sent that to me. Great timing on asking the question, and great timing to my dad on sending me this text.
Yeah, funny how things work out like that.
I know.
I kind of just like went to my Spotify and like typed in bird or like robin or something. But when I typed in bird, I got Blackbird by Eimer. She's a Japanese artist. I don't know what she talks about in the song, but it's called Blackbird.
Hey, nice.
I was thinking something else. And so like randomly the thought came into my mind. I was like, isn't the Kazakhstan national anthem about an eagle? And then I Googled it and Wikipedia'd it. I was like, oh yeah, it is about an eagle.
Oh.
I think the only reason I know that is I like this singer from Kazakhstan. His name is Dimash Kudaibergen. probably pronounced that wrong. He's got an insane voice. He's great. But you know, when you just go on like rabbit holes, I was like, I probably like found this guy like years ago. I was like, oh, he's from Kazakhstan. Let me learn something about Kazakhstan. And I listened to its national anthem or something.
Wow.
But yeah, go listen to that. It's about an eagle.
Great. What else? I mean, Blackbird by the Beatles. That's
Yeah.
a classic. Freebird.
Freebird.
I wouldn't say Freebird's one of my favorite songs, but it's
A classic.
It's a fine song. Rockin' Robin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is Rockin' Robin about like,
About a robin. I don't know.
or is that okay?
Yeah.
Is it actually about like the bird robin? I don't know.
Yeah. One
Okay.
of the lyrics is like, all the little birdies go tweet, tweet, tweet.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So-
Okay, that's a good call.
Yeah.
Good call. Feeling Good by Nina Simone. The first word is birds, I think.
Ooh, birds in the sky. You know how I feel.
Or like birds flying high. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to think of these, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Shout out this one that I don't think anyone is going to know, but I actually listened to. It's by, the artist's name is Jack Doyle.
Sounds familiar.
He has an EP called Man Half Empty, I believe it's called.
Okay.
And the song is called Bird Sons. And
Bird Sons.
Bird Sons, like offspring.
SONS. Okay.
Yep. It's sick. I don't know. It's a really good song.
Wait, I might have to listen to that.
Yeah. Gotta mention The Crane Wife by the Decemberists, both the album and the song The Crane Wife 3 and The Crane Wife 1 and 2.
Good shout. Swan Swan H by REM, also another classic.
Some may say the greatest song ever written.
Some may.
Someone told me that when I was like 12, and I kept that with me. I have no reason behind it, but that is, in my mind, the greatest song ever written.
I mean, REM's had some beautifully written songs. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to say.
Shout out Michael Stipe.
Yeah, great. That was fun to just think about. Yeah,
I hope it was fun to listen to.
It's a great question.
Listen to those songs, honestly. We should make like a
playlist.
yeah, you know what? We're gonna make a public playlist from the Birds Are Real Spotify account.
Oh yeah, we can post it on there. Yeah.
And we'll share that, and people can listen and enjoy our bird songs.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you want us, if we miss something very obvious, or something that you think we should definitely listen to, let us know. We'll add it to the playlist.
Yeah, great.
So let's get into the main topic for the day.
All right, what are we talking about today, Keish?
So we like birds, right?
I do.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
But we also like other animals.
That's true. I do.
And like nature in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
This weekend we both got really nice shots of a red fox at Bombay Hook as well.
We did. That was
really
pretty
cool.
nice.
So yeah, I think it would be cool to talk about how birds interact with other species or just like the environment in general, right?
Nice.
And these specific relationships between two species are called symbiotic relationships.
Symbiotic.
It probably rings a bell from high school biology, right? So there are different types of symbiotic relationships. Can you name them?
Ooh, I can guess them.
Sure.
I assume there are like mutually beneficial ones.
Yeah.
What
would you maybe call that?
Good.
Okay.
Positive.
Okay, we got positive.
Negative.
Negative.
Toxic relationships, perhaps.
Ooh, toxic relationships. Yeah. That's a good one.
Where perhaps one species benefits and the other one just kind of tolerates.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I'm flashing back to like conflict styles from like second grade. Win-win, win-lose, lose-lose, perhaps a double negative symbiotic relationship.
So yeah. The three main ones that people think about are from the perspective of at least one of the species benefiting. I'll quickly go over the other three later, but we're not really going to focus on them. So the three we're going to focus on is mutualism,
Nice.
Or in your words, good.
Good.
Parasitism, and
that's
what
the
you call
toxic one.
bad,
Yep.
toxic even, and then commensalism.
What's that one mean?
So that's where one party benefits, but the other one doesn't really get affected at all.
Okay.
So yeah, let's start with mutualism. So mutualism is when all parties involved incur a net benefit. The degree of the benefit doesn't necessarily need to be the same, but there is a net benefit for both. So there is a distinction between mutualism and cooperation, in that mutualism is a symbiotic relationship that requires at least two different species, which is distinct from like intraspecies cooperation. So like
the azure-winged magpies. That's it.
yeah,
That would just be cooperation.
That would just be cooperation, yeah, okay. Not necessarily symbiotic relationship. So a common example of mutualism is between pollinators and flowering plants. The flowers get fertilized by the pollinators, spreading pollen, and the pollinators get nectar
nice.
from the flowers. So that's a common example of mutualism. Can you give us an example of mutualism with birds? Either with between two species of birds or a bird and like a non-bird species.
Sure. I mean, the one that comes to mind is, I believe it's rhinos or hippos. It's a big mammal.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know the name of, obviously I don't know which mammal, I don't know which bird it is, but I know there are little birds that I think will like sit on their backs and like pick bugs off of them or something. And in that case, I'm just going to say it's a rhino. In that case, the rhino gets bugs taken off its back and the bird gets food. Yeah,
great example. There's actually like many cases of that throughout nature, like birds and like a larger mammal.
Nice.
The example you mentioned is the red-bellied oxpecker, native to sub-Saharan Africa, eating ticks off of any large mammal, really. Like they can go as large as like a hippo or a rhino, and also as small as like an impala.
I assume also an ox, given that they're oxpeckers.
They're all called oxpeckers, so yeah, buffalo ox makes sense as well. So yeah, like you said, the animals get a meal out of it, and large mammals get like parasites like ticks and stuff eaten off of them, right?
Nice. Seems like a good deal.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe a more local example would be of the same thing, honestly, would be a cattle egret. I've never seen a cattle egret, but
I've heard that they're around, but
I've also heard that they're around.
I think they're kind of like snowy egrets, but a little more red.
Mm-hmm. It makes more sense that they're like maybe closer to like farmland and stuff. So the cattle, they kind of like, as they're like feeding for grasses, they kind of like dig up the dirt a little bit, and that kind of brings out the insects, kind of flushes them out. And then so the cattle egret benefits by getting an easy meal, like as the cattle's grazing, it like flushes out the insects, and the cattle egret can eat those.
Interesting. I feel like normally I associate an egret with fish, but
yeah,
I guess it makes sense that they would chow down on some insects too.
And then the cattle egret kind of gets like a nice perch on the cow, nice moving perch. And the same thing for the cow. The cattle egret will eat ticks and stuff off the cattle. So, mutually beneficial relationship.
That's cool. I didn't know about that one.
Yeah. A cool, I don't want to say cooler, they're all cool. But in my mind, a cooler example is between the Egyptian plover and Nile crocodiles.
Oh, yes. Okay. I feel like I've heard of this one, but I don't know the specifics.
Yeah, so the crocodile will sit with its mouth open, and that kind of signals to the plover, the Egyptian plover, that like, hey, my mouth needs to be cleaned. So, crocodiles eat large animals, right?
Yeah, powerful jaws.
And, a lot of time food gets stuck in between their teeth. They're in the water, so sometimes they get leeches inside of their mouths as well, which they can't necessarily swallow, right? So they'll open their mouth. The Egyptian plover will literally walk in to the crocodile's mouth and, pick apart the leftover food, take out leeches, stuff like that.
It's amazing trust just to walk right into a croc's mouth.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's like, obviously it's unspoken, they're like animals, right? But I don't know, like it's really cool to think about how like just evolutionarily they know that like, hey, I'm not gonna eat this guy because then he's not gonna clean my teeth, and we have that mutual understanding.
Right, they're not like texting each other like, hey, come into my mouth, I'm not gonna bite you.
If the crocodile could just chomp down if it wanted to. Yeah, it's crazy.
I believe they made a Pokemon very recently about this very phenomenon. Skeledirge, a starter Pokemon.
Oh,
it's a fire crocodile with a little bird that comes out of its mouth.
Nice. Cool. Skeledirge, look it up.
If you know, you know.
So, of course, the crocodile benefits because it's basically got a dentist in the Egyptian plover. But the Egyptian plover also benefits because, it's getting a bit of food here and there, and it can hang out near these crocodiles, which just serves as protection from other predators. Like,
got bodyguards.
Exactly. I'm cool with these crocodiles. Come get me if you want to.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
That's so cool.
Another example of mutualism that is a little different, but I think is pretty interesting, is between the ostrich and the zebra.
Oh.
Can you think of how that would be mutually beneficial for both of those species?
Boy, I mean, we've been talking about little tiny birds and big ol' mammals and reptiles so far, but now it's kind of flipped, huh? I don't know. Is it something to do with like protection from predators?
No, not at all, actually. The zebra opens its mouth, and the ostrich steps in. No, you're exactly right. It has to do with, mutual avoidance of predators. So zebras do have pretty decent eyesight, but ostriches have really good eyesight. if they're grazing together, herding together, they can help more easily notify zebras of predators. And on the flip side, zebras have really, really good hearing compared to ostriches. And zebras can like turn their ears every which way.
Ooh, yeah.
So they have like kind of like a 360-degree like zone which around which they can hear.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's also kind of like a strength in numbers thing, because if they graze near each other, each individual species or each individual within each species has like a greater chance for survival. Because if there's one lone ostrich out there or one lone zebra, it's easy pickings for the predator, right? But for each individual, it's better if they're in a larger group, because more likely chance is not going to be them.
That's interesting.
Might be someone else.
You know what that makes me think of is actually the peeps that we saw this weekend. How there were dunlins and the plover like mixed together.
Yeah.
And I know one thing about zebras is one of the reasons they are in such big herds and they have those stripes is that when a predator starts attacking, they all kind of bolt as one, and it's really hard to pick one individual out.
Oh, that's very cool.
And like the plovers kind of do the similar thing where one will get spooked and they all will just start flying in a massive flock, and their like top and bottom plumage is really distinct from each other. So it kind of, I think, has a similar effect of like almost hypnotizing the prey. It's harder to pick one individual out.
Hypnotizing the predator.
Hypnotizing the predator.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's great that you mentioned that. Like, we were able to see that firsthand in Bombay Hook. It was really cool. For a long time, the plovers were just swooping, away. I'm sure the northern harrier spooked them or something.
Probably.
But no, that's a great point. That's really cool. So yeah, that's mutualism.
Very cool. I like mutualism.
Yeah, seems
good for everyone.
Seems very good.
Good symbiotic relationship.
On the other hand, now we're going to parasitism.
Oh, no.
So that's, of course, when one involved species incurs a net benefit and the other is negatively affected.
My mind goes to cowbirds.
Yes, we're definitely going to talk about the cowbirds. And brood parasitism is what that action is called.
Yep.
So most people think of parasitic relationships between a host and like something small, like either being inside of the host, like a tapeworm,
right,
or outside of the host, like a tick, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's interesting to think about like birds being parasitic.
Right.
To my knowledge, just not a bird that like lives inside of another bird. I was going to ask you if you can think of some examples where one of, bird parasitism. And yeah, you definitely mentioned it. The main one that I'm going to talk about here, brood parasitism. Can you talk a little more about that?
Sure. I mean, I think the most famous example, at least in my mind, is the cowbird. All cowbirds, basically. But I know lots of other species of bird do this too. But the cowbird will not make its own nest. It will instead lay its eggs in another bird's nest. And I believe with the intention of that bird roosting on their eggs and like hatching their eggs so they don't have to spend their energy doing that.
Exactly. Yep, 100%. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's what it is. There's obviously like different behaviors for each parasitic bird species. Like some species will, when their eggs hatch, they'll like kick out the other hatchlings or kick out the other eggs. Some species won't do that. So there's some small differences, but
one I actually do know is that the black-necked stilt will sometimes do that to an avocet, and then the avocet will just raise the black-necked stilt as if it was one of their own.
Wow.
Yeah.
I only think of like I only thought of like small birds, like not necessarily like a shorebird like that. That's interesting. So yeah, there's kind of like an evolutionary arms race going on with parasitic birds versus like the birds that are being negatively affected. So like some of the birds can take anti-parasitic measures, such as being like better at recognizing slight differences between the eggs, whether it's like shape, color, that kind of thing. But also because of that, the parasitic birds are getting really good at egg mimicry.
Ooh.
They'll like some species will like survey the nest first and like try to figure out which nest they can like produce an egg for that would match best.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool. And a lot of the times these birds, they lay eggs that have a shorter incubation time than the host bird. So like I said, like there are times where the bird hatches first, can get stronger, with food and everything, and then can like bully the other hatchlings out.
Wow.
But there are some like really, really cool anti-parasitic measures that some of these birds are taking. I read this paper titled Embryonic Learning of Vocal Passwords in Superb Fairy Wrens Reveals Intruder Cuckoo Nestlings. It's a paper by Diane Colombelli-Negrel and others.
Nice.
Basically what this paper was saying was that While the superb fairy wren, very pretty bird if you haven't seen a picture of
Yeah.
it. I think they're native to like Australia.
I think so.
The mother bird will sing to the baby birds like while they're in their eggs, and the baby birds will like learn that incubation call. So when the birds hatch, the mother will only respond or only feed the birds that give that very specific incubation call, and the cuckoos, which is like the common parasitic bird in that relationship, their hatchlings won't.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That's hardcore.
Yeah, that's wild. So like
That's really cool.
that way they can like, they're just not going to pay any mind to a hatchling that does not replicate that call. I thought that was super cool.
That's really, wow. That's sick.
Oh, that was wild. So yeah, there's kind of like I said, like an evolutionary arms race where the host birds are like creating these very cool ways to avoid their nests getting parasitized, while the parasitic birds like cowbirds, etc., are also creating ways to be more mischievous than they already are.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, these parasitic birds, sometimes they go really far to ensure that their offspring is accepted, or else.
Oh no.
This is called the Mafia hypothesis.
Oh. Wow.
Basically, the Mafia hypothesis is that when the brood parasite, or like, the parasitic bird, if they find out that their hatchling has been rejected by the host bird, they like keep tabs on each, nest that they parasitized. If they find out that hatchling has been kicked out or is not being cared for or whatever, they'll just go ahead and kill the rest of the hatchlings of that host bird. They'll like destroy the nest, like gone. Right?
Wow. It's a real nice nest you have there. Be a shame if something were to happen to it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like there's that threat there. So the host bird, even if it knows it's, that's not its chick, it'll still raise it, still feed it. It's very sad.
That is sad, but
just because it's so scared.
I just can't believe that bird society has that structure, the Mafia structure. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it looks like there's been some papers written on it. I don't know how, it's called the Mafia hypothesis.
Right.
Like, I don't know if it's, like, super accepted, but that's wild to me.
That is. Tony Soprano was a cowbird.
I think that it's mainly been seen in spotted cuckoos, and the host bird is usually the European magpie, which the European magpie is a really smart bird.
Yeah.
But I guess it just has to deal with it.
Yeah, I guess. Wow. Maybe that's why it deals with it. It's smart enough to know better.
Mm-hmm. So some stats on the Mafia hypothesis. 56% of eggs ejected from the nests were predated upon. They were like destroyed by the host, by the parasitic bird.
Wow.
And in nests where the eggs were not ejected by the host bird, only 6% of those nests were attacked.
I mean,
so it seems like there's a pretty strong
convincing
there.
To me.
And then hosts that ejected the parasitic eggs, they produce 60% fewer young, like in that time period. So it seems like there are some negative effects to kicking out the parasitic bird hatchling, which kind of sucks for them.
I know,
but good for the cuckoos, the cowbirds, the
big bruisers.
The big bruisers, yeah. Now we're moving on to commensalism. So that's where one of the involved species incurs a net benefit, while the other is totally neutral, neither positively nor negatively affected.
Okay.
A common non-bird example is with remoras. Are you familiar with remoras?
I don't think I am.
Remoras are these like little sucker fish, and if you see like any like shark documentary, whale documentary, you'll see them. They kind of like hug the underbellies of sharks or dolphins, or larger sea creatures. Larger locomotive sea creatures. So yeah, they'll attach to the undersides. The shark provides them with locomotion. They feed on the fecal matter of the shark. They feed on scrap bits from when a shark hunts. So yeah, the remora benefits, of course, from all that. The shark doesn't really care.
Okay.
The remora gets protection from being right around the shark too.
Yeah, it's like a nicer leech.
It's like a nicer leech. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the sharks typically don't care. There have been some reports or like some observations that remoras on dolphins do create like too much drag for the dolphin and contribute to like higher energy costs for the dolphin, right? So that would be an example of parasitism, I guess. Right. But the sharks and the remoras would be commensalism.
Cool. So
can you think of a commensal relationship between species of birds, or again, birds and a non-bird?
Well, let me think, No. I don't think so.
Yeah, this is a tricky one, right? Because like it's not the most, I feel like mutualism and parasitic relationships are more
More clear cut.
More clear cut, yeah. So common one is woodpeckers making holes in tree trunks. So woodpeckers, depending on the species, but most do make different nests year to year. So the old abandoned holes are taken up by other birds like owls and sometimes even other species like bats.
Wow. Oh, that's a good point.
Another pretty cool example is ant follower birds. That's just a term for like these birds that do this or that are part of the symbiotic relationship. So basically, as army ants march on the forest floor, kind of similar to the cattle in the cattle-egret relationship, these ants, as they're marching forward, they flush out insects, small invertebrates, small like reptiles like lizards or whatever. So they flush them out, and these ant follower birds follow these like large marches of ants because they bring their prey out into the open, they snatch up the prey, an easy meal for them.
And they're not taking anything from the ants.
Yeah, the ants, whether they know or they don't know what's happening, they don't care. They're unaffected by this whole thing, right? Because they're just marching.
One by one.
There's like many species of ant bird, like that's what their name is, like the blah 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 ant bird. But other species also do this, like thrushes, chats, tanagers, motmots.
Motmots?
Wood creepers.
Even the wood creepers?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
All right, and so really quickly, the other three symbiotic interactions are neutralism. That's when there's a long-term interaction between two species, but neither of them really benefit or incur a net loss. Amensalism, which is where one party is unaffected and the other is actively harmed. And lastly, competition, where both parties are negatively affected in some way by their interaction. But, I feel like when most people talk about symbiotic relationships, they mainly think of the examples which we talked about where one party does incur a benefit. So the mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism.
Yeah, that's very cool. I like, how do you say it? Commensalism?
Commensalism, yeah.
Commensalism. I feel like I want to look more into commensalism because that's just not a relationship I feel like I really think about very often.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons and tons of examples when I was looking through some research for this. So if any of you guys are aware of any cool symbiotic relationships that involve birds, let us know.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be looking for them when I'm out and about.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, I feel like we maybe even figured one out with like the dunlins and the plovers, right? That could be one.
Yeah, all the little peeps hanging out together. That's good. That's a good one.
Mutualism. I hope that our relationship with the birds that we're seeing is
commensal.
Where
we benefit.
Where we benefit and they like it's net neutral to them.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say we, I mean like us specifically. Like, because humans as a whole, we're doing a lot of bad stuff to birds. But like
birders maybe in general.
Yeah.
Hopefully we have a commensal relationship with the birds, which, most people, I feel like birders are very cognizant, because there's a lot of birding no-nos. You don't want to out loud on purpose play other bird calls.
Yep. It can confuse the birds.
Mess with their territory, stuff like that.
Don't want to approach a bird. Like, if a bird nest is readily apparent, you don't want to get too close. You want to give the bird some space so it doesn't feel threatened.
And abandon the nest or something like that. And as photographers, we always want to get a close shot. We don't want to scare off the bird. Even as respect to like other bird photographers, you don't want to be the one to like chase off a bird because you tried to get too close.
Yeah,
never happened to us before.
No,
don't want it to happen. Yeah, so that's all I have.
Well, yeah, thanks for leading this. I feel like I've kind of stopped thinking about other types of animals besides birds now that we've been doing like the bird podcast and all the bird photography. But it's fun to think about them like through the lens of birds, which we're so familiar with now.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell you like what kind of bird or like how I got this idea between symbiotic relationships in my head?
Yeah.
Because like you said, we're so honed in on birds, bird calls. So now when we're out birding, if I hear anything, I just think it's a bird. I'm like, what bird is that, right? Sometimes it's a frog. Sometimes it's a squirrel. But my mind just goes, hey, what bird is that? So and that kind of happened this weekend when we were at Heinz. Like, we were walking, I just paused. I was like, what is that? And you're like, oh, that's a squirrel.
It's a squirrel. The squirrels are a class. Squirrels and chipmunks especially, I think. Yeah. They'll get you every time.
I thought that was just really funny. So then I started thinking, I'm like, hey, there are other animals out there, of course. So we should also pay attention to those,
Listeners at home, do you know of any symbiotic relationships that we didn't cover here? Let us know. I really love learning about this stuff. So just send us an email.
Yeah, definitely interested.
We are on to our closing caw segment. also known as the bird call quiz for the uninitiated.
We haven't been doing too hot in the past
No.
couple of episodes. Hopefully we can turn it around here.
Yeah, we're hoping for a big turnaround here, but
at least one of us to get it right.
I believe the score is still 5-4 quiche.
Probably. On episode 10.
On episode 10. Here is the song for you.
Doesn't sound super familiar to me, honestly. It seems like it's a smaller bird.
Mm-hmm.
Seems a little chirpy, a little songy.
You don't think this is an ostrich?
Nope, I don't think it's an ostrich. That was me, not the bird. I know it was real close.
Very close.
Can you play it again?
Yep.
Okay, I'm trying to think of... Because I don't think it's something super obvious that like I've heard recently, at least. Shot in the dark here. Maybe a Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Nice.
Wow.
Really?
That's an incredible shot in the dark.
Nice. Okay, because yeah, I mean, I've nothing more to say to that. I'm like not even that animated because I'm shocked. Like I have no reason to get that right. Okay, cool.
Awesome.
Great.
All right.
Do you have anything to say about
Off to a
the
good
Baltimore
start.
Oriole?
No, I was gonna say, we're in Philadelphia. You were saying you don't know if it's super familiar to you. I was gonna say, well, it's pretty familiar a little further south.
Okay, that might have
Didn't
given
even
it
need
away.
to say
maybe.
that. Yeah.
All right, cool. 6-4. I'll have to study up on my Oriole calls.
I'm quaking in my boots right now.
You're quaking. I think you'll get this one.
Oh boy, that's worse.
I think you will. Yeah, don't mean to scare you by saying that, but I think you will. Very scary call.
That is a scary one. Oh boy. Okay. My mind immediately went somewhere, and it's either going to be like correct or really far off. But this sounds quite aquatic to me. Very watery, water adjacent. Almost like a gull, but I don't think it's quite like a gull because of that beginning.
Do you want another listen? Lest you get scared?
Like, I don't know. I'm already quaking in my boots. But yeah, sure. Lay it on me again. We had to cut that one short because my cat got very angry.
Understandable. Mothball.
Okay, I'm trying to think. I know there's like a call that people hear in like the night that scares them from some sort of aquatic like bird. I have a guess that I'm going to go with. And it's either going to be right or it's going to be wrong. I think what I'm thinking of is a loon. I think my guess is the common loon.
Yes.
All right.
Let's go. Oh, we're so back.
Wow.
Nice. Yeah, common loon. One of the primary reasons why I want to see one of these things. I do want to hear this in real life.
Yeah. I know.
It's a crazy call.
We've mentioned that we have some listeners who are either in Minnesota or are from Minnesota, and I feel like I've heard from Minnesota people that you know that loon call. So, wow. Look at us. They said we were washed.
I think we might still be washed. Was it 6-5, episode 10? Hey, that's a 50% hit rate. That's not bad.
Yeah. How about at home? Did those sound familiar to you? They are very regionally distinct birds, Baltimore Oriole and the common loon.
Yeah.
So let us know.
I'm still shocked I got Oriole, dude. That was out of nowhere.
I know. You got to that real quick too.
I'll have to figure out the differences between like an orchard Oriole and a Baltimore Oriole.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna give you an obscure Oriole just
Yeah.
because like I don't know how you're gonna pull out like Bullock's Oriole or something.
I've never
you know
even
what I
heard of that.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode. As always, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you want to tell us we rock, if you want to tell us we suck, send it to our email, birdsarereal.pod@gmail.com. Follow us on our socials. We have Instagram, we have TikTok, YouTube, all just Birds Are Real podcast. You should be able to find us. Next week, we are going to be in separate places, separate cities, separate towns, separate states, probably.
Yeah, I'm gonna be back home in Massachusetts all week, so we won't be together to record.
But we will try recording over Zoom. So cut us some slack next week. It's going to be a banger episode, but it might sound a little weird.
Yeah, the sound might be off, but still we'll have the Birds Are Real essence to it.
It'll be great. So hopefully listen to that. Tell your friends, but only your chill friends, like we said before.
Exactly.
Great. have a good symbiotic relationship.